Hey everybody, today is April 1st. Happy April Fool's Day. Um, as some of you may have noticed, trying to get onto Schoology, there are some issues that are going on right now. I suspect it has to do with the number of people, teachers, and students and parents who are trying to get on the platform all the way across the country. So like me, I would just encourage you to, try it. And if it doesn't work, just head back to it at some point. I think they're just really overwhelmed, like so many digital platforms are right now. Today, I wanted to kind of describe to you that this week we're going to be using the Living Environment Biology Boot Camp Survival Guide. This had been copied, and those of you who are getting paper copies of things are probably getting these things delivered to your house by school buses. This includes the whole year, so obviously we haven't covered the whole year, so we'll just be looking at things that we have covered thus far. This week, we're going to be working on topic 1. And so we're going to start here on the second page. You see topic 1 is cells. And the first thing that we need to know about cells is that cells have to maintain homeostasis, and that helps the organism to maintain homeostasis. So homeostasis is like a steady state, a balanced internal environment. If I go over to my tabs that I have open in my browser, you can see that this young man obviously has a fever. He's warm. He's got a thermometer in his mouth. His body is not in homeostasis. He is hotter than 98.6. He is out of homeostasis. He is ill. He's not doing well, and his body will do what it can to try to get him back into homeostasis. On the other hand, somebody could get hypothermia, where their body temperature is too low. So having a body temperature that's too far below 98.6 could be as bad as having one that is too high. Back to our review document. If we don't maintain homeostasis, it can result in sickness or in death. The second term is metabolism, and that's the sum, which means you add everything together, the sum of all the chemical reactions that occur within cells of an organism. Typically, when we think about metabolism, we think about people who have fast or slow metabolisms. When I was younger, I had a very fast metabolism, and as some of you remember, I used to be able to eat 3 or 4 meatball subs in one meal, and I was very, very thin. My metabolism is much slower now, so if I were to eat that much, I would weigh many, many, many hundreds of pounds. This diagram is kind of nice to represent metabolism. So we take in food, which supplies our bodies with energy. That energy comes in the form of carbohydrates, which are sugars and starches, fats, and oils. Okay, so we get some energy from those molecules. We make some chemical wastes out of that, carbon dioxide that comes out of our nose or our mouth, water that comes out of our nose when we exhale. We also derive some ATP. We make an ATP molecule that stands for adenosine triphosphate, and that's the energy that we can use, that we synthesize because we've taken these things in. And another waste product of that metabolism will be heat. So making that ATP that we can use for energy, that represents our metabolism. Organic molecules are anything that contain a combination of carbon and hydrogen and oxygen. So carbon dioxide is not technically an organic molecule because it doesn't contain C, H, and O. Water, which contains H and O, as in H2O, does not contain carbon, so therefore water, even though it's essential, is not organic. These things have to have a combination of C, H, and O. So if we go back to our browser and we look at, for example, glucose, you can see that glucose contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Therefore, glucose is considered an organic molecule. So, what are the main organic molecules that we need to concern ourselves with in living environment? So, those carbohydrates that are starches, their basic building block, which is also a carbohydrate, is simple sugars. So simple sugars make up carbohydrates. Those things are found in grains, vegetables, and fruits. Grains are things like macaroni, bread, rice, oats. Okay, obviously macaroni is made from wheat, so is bread. Vegetables. Some vegetables have more carbohydrates than others. And then fruits as well. So if we go back to our browser, again, we get our carbohydrates from plants, and the plants manufacture those carbohydrates through that process of photosynthesis. Proteins are composed of amino acids. So proteins are organic. They're made of roughly 20 different amino acids. Those things are found in meat, egg whites, and beans in particular, nuts, although there are some other sources of proteins as well. Certainly some plants have proteins. So here is a photograph showing a variety of foods that are rich in protein: chicken, beef, hamburger, turkey, fish, nuts. Lipids are another type of organic molecule important for living things. And lipids are made out of fatty acids and glycerin. They are found in things like animal fats, like the grease that comes out of a hamburger when you cook it. In nuts like cashews and peanuts. We can actually buy bottles of peanut oil to cook in. And then, of course, the oils in general. And some examples of those lipids, things that are high in fat, some fatty meats. Beef tends to have a lot more fat than chicken or turkey. And then the cut of meat has an impact as well. So if you have a prime rib, it is generally quite delicious and very tender if you like beef, because it has a lot of fat in between mixed in the meat that's called marbling. So if it's not simply fat that's on the outside that we could cut off, but if it's spread out throughout the entire piece of meat. We call that marbling. A cut of steak called sirloin tends to be less fatty, healthier for you, but not as delicious as those higher fat cuts of beef. Cheeses tend to be high in fat, butter, avocados that we make guacamole out of, nuts and seeds, and also chocolate. And then our nucleic acids, whose building blocks are nucleotides. We put nucleotides together to make nucleic acids. And we have some small amounts of nucleic acids in all foods that we consume, because nucleic acids, which make up DNA and RNA, are the things that make up all living creatures, both plants and animals. So if we come back to a diagram of nucleic acid, you remember we started to work with the 4 DNA base pairs, the A for adenine, the T for thymine, the G for guanine, and the C for cytosine. And I wanted to mention, just because you probably spend a lot of time thinking, when are we ever going to use this stuff that we learn in class? Well, right now, we are learning from home because of COVID-19, because of this new novel coronavirus. By the way, you've probably heard it called the novel coronavirus and wondered why it's novel. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that. Why is it called the novel coronavirus? It's called novel because it's brand new and nobody on the planet had any antibodies to fight it. So once it's made its journey around the world and people have developed antibodies to it, then it won't be considered novel anymore. But the Chinese government had done a DNA sequencing of this COVID-19, and this is not the entire genetic code, but this is part of it. And as you can see, there are A's and C's and T's and G's that make up this genetic sequence. And so, yes, the things we learn in living environment, the things we learn in biology class, do really have to do with our real life. What will scientists be able to do with that coronavirus genetic sequence? By knowing what the sequence is, they can work on trying to make a vaccine in a laboratory. In the past, without computers and without the ability to communicate online, doctors hundreds of years ago, even 100 years ago, when they were trying to battle things like poliovirus and smallpox, had to painstakingly do analysis that would oftentimes take years and years to even get to a point where we are today. So yes, this genetics that we learn about is important, and it's not only important to the doctors and to the scientists, but it's really going to be the thing that helps us to get past this and create a vaccine, hopefully very soon. Take care. I hope you're doing well. Mr. L signing out for April 1st. Feel free to give me a holler, text, phone call, email, message through Schoology. Hope you're all doing well.